one of the biggest debates that occurs in academia about, where stock prices come from is, how smart is the market? How smart are investors? Like, so if they pick a company like AMC, where the analysts are all saying AMC is worth, a nickel a share, literally. They literally say, actually, they said a penny. I've seen a penny per share, but yet AMC is trading at $40 a share. Well, who's right? Who's wrong? It's almost like when an artist comes out and the music is absolute crap, but they sell like a million records, and somebody says, "Oh, he's a great artist." And you say, "Well, why is he a great artist? His music is crap." And they say, "Yeah, but he sold a million records." Well, then you start getting into a debate to say, well, the reason that he sold a million records is because people are stupid and they buy stupid music, right? But then again, that can make you look stupid because maybe you're not connected to what people actually like, right? So it's a constant balancing act. But what I do think is that when you're talking about stock prices, the way the market chooses to overprice or underprice assets in a lot of cases, a lot of it comes down to, you know, um, what the economic conditions are. So recently, you've had a lot of just, a very party, almost like a party like atmosphere with financial markets where it's been like, my God, it's so easy to make money. Money's flowing everywhere. Everybody's feeling financially confident. When that occurs, you tend to see a lot more deviation between the true fundamental value of a stock and what people bid for it because they'll pay for anything. So like right now, in the market, everybody believes in buying the dip. Like buying the dip is always like it's buy the dip, buy the dip, buy the dip. Well, truth be told, you're not always supposed to buy the dip all the time in every stock, right? It's not smart, right? You're supposed to discern. You pick and choose which stocks you buy the dip. Some companies, like Apple or Amazon, I'm gonna buy the dip because those are strong fundamental companies, but I'm not gonna buy the dip in Dogecoin because Dogecoin could dip forever and be dead. It'll dip till it's dead. This idea of buying the dip no matter what is just not a good fundamental long-term strategy, and it's not going to work when the economy starts to actually shrink a little bit because the things they're worried about are high inflation. The debate right now is whether or not inflation is going to be higher or not, and the value of the dollar is going to start, depleting itself. The second is what they call stagflation, which is a slowing economy and inflation, which is just kind of terrible. It's like it's almost like inflation is like you can compare it to inflation has a good and a bad side, right? Inflation's good because it pumps up the economy, like when you inflate your tires. Inflation is good for that reason, but it's bad because it can get out of control and cause prices to go up. Uh, but so inflation is kind of like having a really great job that you're really proud of and you're making a lot of money, but you're working yourself into the ground. Like it's like, okay, I gotta stop. I worked 80 hours last week. I'm getting tired. It's too much, right? But at least you're making big money, right? Do you follow what I'm saying? Stagflation is like overworking yourself into like an early grave, but you don't even like your job, right? You're working yourself into the ground, but you're like collecting trash for $7 an hour. So not only do you hate the job, you hate the paycheck, and it's ruining your health, right? So that's what stagflation is. Stagflation is where you have inflation, but you don't even get the benefit of inflation. You don't get the happy ending that's supposed to come with inflation, where the economy is actually going up. So just be mindful if stagflation hits. If you start hearing that word stagflation a lot, just know that there's a good reason to be worried at that point because economists don't really have the economic tools to address stagflation. Stagflation is the economic equivalent of the coronavirus, right? They think they have a vaccine, but maybe they don't. They think they have a cure, but maybe they don't. It's hard. It's like a virus that mutates every time you try to give it medication. Stagflation is the big thing. It's the big scary boogeyman that a lot of economists are afraid of. So let me keep going. Brendan says, how do credit card companies get a kickback for using their card? How do they get a kickback? Well, usually they'll take maybe a percentage of the transaction fee. So you think about a credit card. The way I'm processing this now, I'm not an expert on credit cards, but if I use a Visa card, how does Visa make their money? Well, one of the ways they make their money is if I'm transacting with a merchant and Visa's processing the transaction, Visa takes a cut of that transaction, right? So who they charge the most might depend. They might charge the merchant more than they're charging the customer, or they might charge the customer something. So, or and so they pull these little levers, and they have different tricks they can use to get you to use their card. That's where they get to the point where they're like, hey, use our card. There's no interest for 2 years or a year or whatever, right? You're like, how are you going to make your money if there's no interest? Well, maybe they're making the money on the transaction fee. Maybe they're making the money on the annual fee. Maybe they're making the money from the merchant that you're buying the product from, right? They're going to get their money. They always get their money. They just pull different levers based on what they're trying to accomplish. So that's like when you go buy a car, like a lot of people will go try to buy a car and they feel that, they'll come in and they'll say, I don't want my car note to be more than $300. Like they'll focus solely on the car note. That is a huge mistake. That is a huge mistake because if you want the car note to be at a certain level, you can manipulate all kinds of stuff, right? So you give me a car and you tell me the payment is 350, and I say I can't pay more than 350, and they come back and say, oh, I got your payment down to 299. Well, how did you do that? Because you didn't just give me like free money. Like ask specifically. Well, what we did was we extended the length of the term of your loan, or we gave you a different loan, right? or we changed this fee over here. We took away this feature or this service or whatever, right? So really, what you'd be looking for is something that says, um, I won't pay more than $300 a month, and I don't want anything to change about the length of time that I have this debt. So you're going to have to just lower the price of that car, right? You're going to have to give me something clearly, other than a lower monthly payment. I need to know that the total cost of what I'm paying for this vehicle is lower. If you can't do that, then I'm gonna have to go somewhere else, right? So you got to be real careful about that. All right. So Adrian says, what do you think about mutual funds versus index funds and ETFs? I like them all. One debate is whether or not mutual funds that charge fees, they call them loads, load versus no load. There are some mutual funds that charge fees, some that don't. Um, the one big debate is whether or not these mutual funds that charge fees are actually worth the fees. So there are some mutual funds that um, that will charge you, that will charge you these, these fees or whatever, and they're not giving you any extra value for what they're charging you for. And that's where, and Warren Buffett has a big issue with mutual funds that charge a load. He basically says, index funds are just as good, and I think that that's a valid argument that he's making. A lot of people say, look, you don't even need to have these people actively managing your money, because a lot of times they can't make more money than monkeys can. That was proven in the book A Random Walk Down Wall Street, where they had monkeys invest in the stock market. And so one of the things that people want, that the experts I think would agree with, is that you really want to not overthink it. Like if investing in stocks and money is not your thing, if you're not interested, you still want to be a participant, but you don't have to be an active participant. You don't have to go take a stock market class. You don't have to sit around and talk about stocks all day. You don't have to worry about reading annual reports and all that, unless that's fun for you. I don't read annual reports because that's not fun for me. I took the classes and all that. I know how to. I just don't want to. Instead, if you want to make sure your children are rich, like this is really a simple battle plan for anybody that wants to make sure your child is independently wealthy by the age of 25 or 30. Just follow the $5 a day investing plan. Put $5 a day on average, maybe so $35 a week or more, into an index fund like an S&P 500 index fund, or some sort of ETF that is well diversified, maybe that's spread amongst, say, blue chip companies, and just consistently put that money in there. Set it on autopilot and forget about it. Don't even think about it. And look at it, every 5 years or every couple years, and by the time your child gets to be about 25 years old, they'll have a couple $100,000, which is enough money for them to never work a day in their life. You know, um, I'm radical when I talk like this, but I don't believe your kids should have to work. Honestly, I don't think. I'm not saying that working isn't good for the soul. I'm not saying that working can't doesn't have its benefits. I do. I'm old school. I believe working, builds character and all that. Because that was how I was raised. But I kind of think that there's more interesting things to do in your life than being in the office all day. I just do. And I also believe that this fundamental trade that we make of life for money, years of our lives for money, It's not a good trade. It's not fun, and as a person who, before the pandemic, I was already sitting at home working at home all day, and I had already discovered way back in 2001, really actually in the 90s, I figured out. I said, man, the world doesn't know what they're missing. Like all these people that think you're supposed to get up and be at work all day, they don't know, they don't understand how many thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of life you're missing because you're spending all your time at your job. And it's especially tough for Black people because a lot of y'all don't even like going and hanging out with those people. Like, I'm not saying that white people are all terrible. This is not anti-white, but my God, like the racism and the stuff that people deal with on the job every day, the stress, that stuff kills you. Like that stress, like I have no doubt in my mind that there's a connection between your mental health and your physical health. I used to think that it was just like, no, it's really just all in your head. It's not really true. No, I'm 100% convinced based on my research that if your mental health is bad, it's going to mess up your physical health. That if you're sick and you're depressed too, that you're going to get sicker than you would if you were an optimist and if you had reasons to be happy. So let's think about it like this, right? If I spend 40 hours a week at a job, and I do this, 50 weeks a year, that's 2,000 hours a year. That's 20,000 hours every decade. That's 80,000 hours over the course of a 40-year working career, 100,000 hours if I work 50 years, like a lot of Black people do. So if you take 100,000 hours, think about this. You're awake about 16 hours a day, right? So take 100,000 divided by 16. You're giving up 6,250 days to the corporate plantation. 6,250 days is how many? What's that? About 17 years. So you literally are putting yourself in 17 years of prison, 17 years of capitalist economic prison. Process this, right? So you're giving away 17 years of your life to, just make enough money to get by. You're not even getting rich. It's not like you're doing this to become a millionaire. You're doing this to pay rent to a landlord, right? So, 17 years. I mean, that's like the difference between somebody dying at, 75 and dying at 58. Right. So imagine if somebody said, when you go to work and you commit to this life, you commit to this capitalist system, this racist capitalist system, you're literally going to live almost 20 years less than you would otherwise. Would you give up 20 years of your life, for them or for that? I wouldn't. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying think about it. You were just raised to think that you're supposed to work all the time. That was an outpouring of the Industrial Revolution, where the people at the top that had the power understood how they could manipulate the minds of the masses mainly through the public school system to train and condition you to believe that the only way you can have value in this society is if you're getting up and going to work at a corporation every day. That wasn't by accident. And they would create movements around that. The civil rights movement, part of that was driven by a desire to get more Black people to want to come to the factories and work every day. They needed more workers. The women's rights movement, a lot of that was built on getting more consumers for products. They wanted women out shopping and buying stuff, but also they wanted women working. They wanted women to, shame other women and say, if you stay home with your kids, then you're ridiculous. What's wrong with you? You're not a real woman, right? What real woman wants to spend time with her children? You should be at work every day. Well, and I remember thinking, work ain't that much fun. Like, it seems to me like being home with your family would be more fun than working every day. But there are people that really believe this. They believe that if you're not getting up and going to work every day, but yet you say something like, I want to spend time with my kids so my kids don't grow up and become serial killers, that they think something's wrong with that. There was a time not too long ago where that was actually the normal approach to life. Like that motherhood was an important role in our society. And it wasn't something that was superseded by spending time on the corporate plantation. So again, there's nothing wrong with getting jobs and working and all that, but just know that there's a lot of ways to skin the cat. And figuring out what your truth is like incredibly important. Your kids will find their own truth, and having wealth will allow them to explore that truth in a more genuine way. So that's why I want my children to have all the money they need by the time they're 25, so that when they make a decision, they won't have to make the decision because of the money, right? I don't want my daughters to pick a boyfriend because of the money. I want them to pick a guy that's nice to them, that loves them, and is going to be there for them. I don't want them to say, well, I'm going to date him. He punches me in the face every month, but I'm going to date him because I can't pay the bills without him. A lot of women have to make that difficult choice. Or I don't want them to go and do work at a job because of the money. Like, I hate this job. It's terrible. I'm wasting years of my life, but I'm doing it because I have to pay the bills with this. Well, if your bills are already paid, then you can make different choices. So giving them money is giving them freedom. Money and freedom are connected. All right. So Akila says the Forex trading is good for extra money since the unemployment ran out and I don't have to go back to work. When will you be able to add more Forex trading to the Black Business School? We are right in the process of doing that, Akila. Within the next, I think, 2 to 3 weeks, we are doing a big partnership on Forex trading. There's a brother that we met who has an extraordinary platform on Forex trading. I will make the announcement once the contract is signed, and he's going to basically be the Forex instructor for the Black Business School. So we're working out the details of the deal, and I will let you all know when that's done, when we get there, for sure. And he's good at what he does, and we respect him. Tracy Robinson says, if you missed the podcast, can watch AA. Okay, I'm sorry, Tracy. Maybe you have to rephrase that question. I don't understand what that question is, but just write it again and I'll answer it. Oh, here we go. Can I watch the replay? Yes. If you log in at theblackstockmarketprogram.com, theblackstockmarketprogram.com, you can actually get replays of every single class we've done, pretty much. If you go just log in at theblackstockmarketprogram.com. There's enough content to literally last you for the rest of your life. And it's amazing, and it's good stuff, and you'll learn. So feel free to go take a look at that, and you can watch on your phone, listen to it while you're cleaning the house, whatever you'd like to do. Marion Turner, I want to know how I can grow my stocks a little quicker. I also really do not know how to use TD Ameritrade. Can you tell me where on their site can help with this? Well, most of these sites, E-Trade and TD Ameritrade, have some sort of help system, some sort of little baby university where they show you how to use their platform. Also within the blackstockmarketprogram.com, I actually go into TD Ameritrade and kind of mess around. That was the platform we were using the most when we started the program years ago. And I've also done some stuff with E-Trade and stuff like that. So there's some tutorials in there, Stash Acorns, Robinhood, all that stuff. Let's see, James Swinson. Sorry. I mean, if you buy for $8 and it's now $40. I'm sorry, James. I didn't catch the first half of your question, brother. If you could rephrase that, I'd appreciate that. Tracy Robinson, what about futures and binary options? We don't cover that within the stock market investing program, but I do have a stock options masterclass. If you want to take a look at stockoptionsmasterclass.com, so feel free to take a look at that. Stockoptionsmasterclass.com. Michelle Starks, can you please repeat again what you said about investing for your children? Yeah, the $5 a day investing plan, which you can actually get a copy of that if you go to theallblackagenda.com. That's THE, theallblackagenda.com. Is something that I put together that is very simple. It's a simple little ebook that everybody can have. And basically, I just explain to you and show you that everybody who's been telling you that stock market investing is only for rich people or super smart people and all that, they're just lying to you. And the reason they're lying is not because they're liars. They're lying to you because they don't know the truth. The truth is that it's very easy to build a massive amounts of wealth in the stock market based on history. It's also very easy for any consistent, determined person to make sure their children eventually become millionaires. If you look at the allblackagenda.com and the $5 a day plan, which is a little ebook you can download, what you find is that a person who invests $5 a day, I pick $5 a day because that's equivalent to the amount of money that somebody, you can't even buy a Popeye's chicken value meal for $5 a day. And so everybody can afford it, right? So basically, the $5 a day plan shows that a person that simply invests literally like a monkey, like literally when I say a monkey, I use monkeys because that's what the guy used in his book, A Random Walk Down Wall Street. If you invest literally like a monkey and just literally put your money into just like S&P 500 index funds or just literally spread your money out, that after about 10 years, that person has about 29,000 in liquid cash. Now, how many people do you know? Think about this. If you give me a yes or no, would you say that the majority of the people you know can come up with $29,000 liquid, like if they had to right now? Like, would you say the majority of the people that you grew up with, if you said, "Hey, I need to borrow $29,000," would you say the majority of your loved ones could, write that check? Right. I know that wasn't true in our family. And so that right there is powerful. You've literally taken a person who might have been in poverty and you put them in a position that very few people even get into within the decade. One damn decade. Doesn't take that long. Um, but that's just the beginning. Actually, after 20 years, when compound interest starts kicking in, it grows from 29,000. Again, you're still doing $5 a day, $35 a week on autopilot in an S&P 500 index fund. After 20 years, it goes to 102,000 liquid. This is cash, $100,000 cash money. I don't know about y'all, but when I was 25, I had $100,000 liquid. You can't tell me nothing. Right? I can do whatever I want, right? $100,000 liquid after 20 years. After 30 years, it's about $250,000. After 40 years, it becomes $750,000. That's one generation. So you've gone within one generation from being dirt poor to being filthy rich. Very few people can say my family has $750,000 liquid that we can literally go get out the bank right now. That's amazing, right? And if you do, and remember, $5 a day though is setting the bar very low. I had to set the bar low because there were so many people who are dead set and determined to believe Black people cannot invest, that we cannot afford to invest, that we have no money to invest. And so I spent probably the first 7, 8 years of my public career explaining why that's not true, dispelling the nonsense and the myths that are out here, usually being perpetuated by people who don't know a damn thing about investing, who've never built any wealth, who don't have a nickel in their pocket, but who have, who can get on the internet with a microphone and run their mouth. And it was very frustrating. And now we've gotten past that. But remember, $5 a day was set as a low bar to say, if you can afford Popeye's chicken, then you can afford to invest. And we know that our people can afford Popeye's chicken because that's how Popeyes makes billions of dollars every year from Black people. So really $5 a day is the minimum. If you go to $10 a day or $15 a day, even a lot of people spend $15, $20 a day at lunch, then you're tripling those numbers, right? So you go to $15 a day, let's say you triple that. Well, now in 10 years, instead of 29,000, you're talking about 85,000. After 20 years, instead of 102,000, you're talking about $300,000. After 30 years, instead of $250,000, you're talking about $750,000. After 40 years, instead of $750,000, you're talking about $2.25 million. Millionaire status, and not just being a millionaire, but you're actually what Lil Wayne used to call a cash money millionaire. You are a liquid millionaire. Most millionaires are not liquid millionaires. Like when Diddy became a billionaire, Diddy was explaining, he said, look, I don't have $1 billion. What happens is when Diddy became a billionaire, when Kanye became a billionaire, what they did was they said the value of all the assets that they own, the cash generating assets that they have, are worth over $1 billion. So with Kanye, when he became a billionaire, he only had maybe $100 million in liquid cash. The rest was measured by his Adidas deal, where they took the cash flow that he made from the Adidas deal and they did a multiple. They said, okay, he made $113 million from his Adidas deal last year. Those stupid Air Yeezy shoes that I will never buy in a million years because they cost too much and they're ugly. But, well, I probably shouldn't say that because I kind of sort of know Kanye a little bit. We did talk on the phone. So if you're listening, Kanye, I'm not disrespecting you, but I ain't buying them ugly ass shoes. But they took the 113 million, they multiplied it by 10, and they said this is over $1 billion. So Kanye is officially, according to Forbes, a registered billionaire. But the thing about that though is that doesn't mean he had $1 billion. So there's a difference between being a billionaire on paper and a liquid cash money billionaire. And so you're talking about, when you talk about the $5 day plan, or you make it a $15 day plan and you have a little bit of discipline, like if you're really committed to this thing of building this family empire, like you really have the discipline that I know a lot of you have to make your families great. My God, within one generation, your family's a liquid over $2 million. That's pretty awesome. Like, that's pretty cool. And here's the crazy part, right? So as I was saying before, it's very easy for anybody to make sure their children become millionaires. So remember, with your kids, they've got more time on this earth than you. So I got a 10-year-old. Let's say that I live, if I'm lucky, let's say I live till the year 2050, 2055 or whatever, right? If I'm really lucky. She has a chance to live to like the year 2080, 2090, maybe even 2100, right? So if she's continuing what I started, and continuing to invest consistently in the same way that we talked about, then that means that if we're done, in her lifetime, and she's walking away with 2.25 million liquid, she can easily turn that 2.25 million into $30 million or whatever, or $50 million, right? So most of the wealth that you see in this country, when you see these families that just have money hand over fist, you have to what they call it, reverse engineer that process. And what you'll realize is that there was usually a grandparent or a parent that really made some sacrifices that put their children in a position where they are economically strong. So like a lot of the internet, again, because you got a lot of people on the internet, they have microphones and no brain and no information, but they just talk a lot because it sounds good. There were people that speculated, for example, that when my wife and I got married, she was marrying me so she could have my money. Well, what they don't understand is that my wife had a grandfather who was at the University of Chicago, who worked with a guy named Percy something. I forgot his name, but they helped to create, or they created the technology in chemistry or whatever that ended up creating like GlaxoSmithKline or something ridiculous. I forgot what it was. I got to look up the details. But basically, at that time, they were building wealth in the 1940s, right? So she goes back generations on this, right? So the 1940s and 1930s, she had grandparents that were investing for their children. They bought, gigantic buildings in South Side Chicago, where their children were then allowed to live in those buildings rent free. Kids ain't paying no rent, no nothing. They're renting the spaces out to other people, and they still own those buildings. When she bought a house, in the year 2005, that down payment for that house came from money that her grandfather had put to the side back in the 1940s. Do you understand what I'm saying? Right? So if you have good ancestors and good people that were here before you, they can put you in a good economic position. So my wife did not need my money. She was not a struggling single mom who's like, I need to go date this dude so he can go pay my bills. That was not that strugglenomics narrative is not the narrative that you're supposed to automatically have because you're black. There are black people, good people. I'm not talking about people born with a silver spoon in their mouth or hoity-toity Negroes. I'm talking about regular black people just like you and I, who simply understand this basic idea called common sense and love. And they have enough vision to say, I'm not going to be around forever. So I want to make sure my kids, I'm going to get some good life insurance so that when they talk about my memory, they're going to say good things. They're not going to say, well, we had to have a GoFundMe because daddy was taking pictures on Instagram holding money, but didn't take the time to go call up a life insurance agent to get a policy. Right. You have people that say, I want to go ahead and make sure that I take care of my family so they don't have to go through what I went through. I want to break that generational curse. And those are the people that I relate to. Those are the ones that I applaud. And so the contrast to that is that culturally speaking, you have a whole mass of people, unfortunately, that really want to continue to perpetuate and promote the ignorance. Or they think that when you talk about trying to do things a little bit different, that you're being a snob. I've had people accuse me of being elitist because I say, look, I want black people to be intelligent. Well, my problem is I look back at them and I say, well, you're a freaking idiot because you want black people to be stupid, which means you want black people to be oppressed. So what's the difference between you and a Klansman? What's the difference between you and a standard racist? A lot of your worst racists out here are black because they want black people to stay ignorant and stuck and broken and destroyed and devastated. I don't want that for my people. So I'm sorry. I'm always going to say, let's be black and intelligent because that's how you win at this game. Okay, so let me keep going. Dante says, can you quickly explain how to get an S&P 500 fund on the TD Ameritrade platform? If you log into the blackstockmarketprogram.com, there is literally a tutorial on TD Ameritrade in there. But basically, and remember, you can get an S&P 500 index fund, not just on TD Ameritrade. You can get them on all the exchanges. So even on Robinhood, look up the SPDR, SPDR. The SPDR is the S&P 500 ETF, which stands for Exchange Traded Funds. And it's a really good investment because it gives you a small percentage in the 500 largest, most successful companies in America. And it's a great long-term wealth building strategy. All right. So Benjamin King says, with the economic troubles in the market, should I still continue to aggressively invest right now, or should I slow it down? Well, I'm not going to tell you what to do on that, just because I'm not necessarily giving that investment advice per se, right? I have to do that just for legal reasons. But what I will say is, I don't believe in changing your strategy based on changing it too much based on economic conditions, right? Like when people say I'm pulling my money out and I'm going to sit on the side and wait for an opportunity, I get some of that, right? Like sometimes I will do that. Sometimes I'll wait for the market to dip a little bit so I can go buy some quality companies or something like that. But typically, if you're constantly changing based on the conditions and not sort of having some sort of baseline strategy that's consistent no matter what, you can drive yourself crazy because you're engaging in what is called market timing. You're trying to time the market, trying to buy and sell at the right time and all this other stuff. And that's hard to do. And so what I do is I don't really overthink it. My general strategy is that I'm typically buying stocks. I don't usually go short very often, because that can lead to insane losses if you're not careful. I might buy puts and calls based on what I'm trying to do. So a put might be something I might purchase in order to protect myself against the downside. If I don't want that risk, it's really a matter of not so much being able to predict what's going to happen. It's a matter of saying, do I want to get on that roller coaster ride? Do I want to be exposed to that risk? Right. So, for example, if somebody says, should I buy AMC or not buy AMC? I'm not one to say don't buy it. I'm a person that says, well, do you want that risk, right? The risk that you have with an AMC is different from the risk you might face with a Google. But then again, the rewards of owning an AMC can exceed the rewards that come with owning a Google. If you own AMC and it goes well, you're going to make a killing. But if it goes bad, you're going to get killed. Right. So maybe a person might say, well, I think I want to own some AMC, but like I did, I bought some AMC for fun because I was like, hey, let me buy some. And so, so what I did though was I didn't just buy it. What I did was I bought it. I also bought some put options to protect myself against the downside in case the stock collapsed. And also what I did was I started selling the call options so that I could benefit from the fact that the options prices had gone up. Right. So that was my particular strategy for dealing with that. But it's not necessarily the strategy that everybody might want to take. So it's like making food. Like if you make a plate of food, you're going to put the seasoning on the food that you enjoy. You're going to get the ingredients that taste good for you, and your plate might be different from somebody else's. But knowing how to cook, meaning knowing how to invest, knowing how to look at your different options, is beneficial so that you can kind of know what's going to work for you and you can make those decisions. That's why you're here in class listening to me now, is because by having these conversations, you can see the whole field and kind of make a decision that works best for you. Okay, so let's see here. How can we leave an endowment to the Black Business School? Are we able to leave that information in our trust? Yeah, I think you can just put it in your trust. I think that'd be awesome. I appreciate that. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do as well. Most of my wealth is going to the Black Business School because I believe that if we're determined enough right now that the Black Business School can be in existence for the next 400 years. The thing I want to do now is we got to get land. We want to get buildings and land because I feel like real estate is a little more real. I don't want it to just be digital, even though the digital stuff is extremely beneficial, allows us to reach the entire world. But I actually want to have land and buildings and all that stuff, and we're getting there. We're going to buy some stuff. We're going to wait for the pandemic to end. So thank you for that consideration. We would put your money to good use for sure. And actually, what I'm going to do also, thinking out loud in terms of how you leave your assets behind. One thing that people brought up. I was talking to some brothers in Baltimore. I was down in Baltimore this week speaking, and they have this beautiful Black Wall Street on 25th Street that was amazing. It was literally blocks and blocks and blocks of Black-owned businesses all set up. It was like all these pop-ups, and there was a sister that set all this up. They have great leaders in Baltimore. They have your crappy leaders, the ones who are sitting in City Hall ruining the city, but you have your great leaders that are actually in the neighborhoods doing the things that Black people need. And those are the leaders that I meet with when I go to Baltimore. I don't want to meet the politicians. And so anyway, I was meeting with these leaders, and there was a sister that literally went out and got over 120 Black businesses set up on all these blocks. They just took over the whole street. They just took it over, and they all had these businesses set up. And the vibe was so beautiful because you're walking down the street and you're seeing 3 or 4 generations. Like, you'll see the grandpa. I saw one where the grandfather was upstairs, on the phone, like kind of like it reminded me like a Spike Lee movie where they're hanging out the window talking, or whatever. And he was talking to his daughter, who was running their little family business down below. And the daughter was with her teenage daughter who was actually helping to sell the product. So it was like a whole family thing. And you can hear the music and you can smell barbecue and there's kids running around and it's nice and safe and just this beautiful thing. And so it was really inspirational to see. And I think that we should do this in every city. Like I think that having that sort of black owned business and investing in wealth is just kind of part of our culture. It's something that we can do. I think we have the opportunity to really just drill that in to the kids so they see this and they carry this on. But then also I was talking to some of the men there about about the challenge of passing your business on. We drove by something called it was called some kind of mall. I forgot what the mall was called, but it was historic because there used to be a ton of black owned businesses there, maybe in the 1920s and 1930s. And I said, I bet you a lot of those businesses are gone. And they said, yeah, they are, but it's a historic landmark. And they also talked about how Johns Hopkins University, the same university that stole the cells of Henrietta Lacks, so they made billions of dollars and never gave the family anything, from what I understand. They're actually buying property in neighborhoods that used to be controlled by black people. So now they're taking all this money, all those student loans that have been a drain on black wealth, and they're using that wealth to buy and gentrify black neighborhoods, right? So they're buying this property, they're making their moves. And one of the things we were talking about, I'm just sharing these facts. Not all these facts have to do with the story, but I'm sharing all these facts just so you can kind of see the environment and see the whole playing field. So one of the other things that we did talk about is, legacy. What if you have a business and your kids don't want to be a part of the business? They just, because kids have a right to be who they want to be. I don't believe in forcing them to do anything. And so what if your kids are just like, man, I don't want to run a shop. And that happened to a lot of black businesses. A lot of black businesses died because their kids didn't want them. The kids wanted to go to a big white university and get a job, with some big white company because that was fancy and cool and fashionable. And integration taught us to want these things. Well, one of the things I said to them was I said, what I do is I don't really put the burden on my biological child as well as my children that are in my house to carry on my business. I also have lots of God kids I've adopted through the years. And there are so many kids out here in our community that are amazing, wonderful, valuable human beings that are worth your investment. And when I say worth your investment, I mean that if you pour into them when they're young, when you love them when nobody else does, they're going to be extremely loyal to you. A lot of you were raised in that way. Like I have people that poured into me when my daddy abandoned me and wasn't nowhere around. I had a daddy that poured into me. So I'm extremely loyal to him. And I'm going to take good care of him all the way to the end. Dr. Claude Anderson poured into me, and y'all know that I'm ride or die for him. I will do anything to support this man. Louis Farrakhan poured into me. I am completely loyal to Farrakhan. And this is the type of investing that we don't talk about. When we explain that investing isn't just about money, it's really also about people. Those are more important investments that you make. So why am I bringing this up? Well, because these young people, that becomes part of your legacy, right? When you are that person who's young and you're hip and you're killing it and you're making money and you're building this business, you're not going to live forever. You're going to die. Like all of us are going to die. And the people that I think have the most solid legacies over long periods of time, like 100 years, 200 years, are people that really poured into younger people while they were here, right? You drill ideas into their head. You teach them things that they need to know. You remind them of the legacies that matter and the things that are going to shape their values as they get older. And if you watch me carefully, you'll notice I do this every day. I'm not just doing this with my kids. I'm doing this even with you and your family and your kids. I go all around the globe and people come up and they tell me how my ideas shaped their choices and how it shaped how they're educating their children. Well, you know what? Sure, I do this definitely because I want to be a team player. I want to help the community, but there's a little bit of self-preservation in there too. It's like, okay, Boyce, Boyce had one biological child. I didn't have a gang of kids. I was busy working. So I want this to last, right? I don't want this to die when I'm dead. I want this to be around forever. So when I'm sharing these things and then I've had enough of an impact on you that is shaping the culture of your household, well, guess what? That means I get to say, okay, I didn't waste my time because these ideas are going to live long after I'm gone. I could die tomorrow and these ideas are not going to be gone, right? So I would encourage you, if you have a business or whatever and you're looking for a legacy and who to pass things on to, don't just put that whole burden on your kids. Sometimes your child might come show up one day and be like, Daddy, I always want to be a stripper. I just want to go get on the stripper pole. And I don't want to run an auto shop. I don't want to, whatever. Or in Atlanta, there was this guy whose father owns all these fast food restaurants, and my friend said, yeah, he wants to give them to his son. He worked his whole life so he could give it to his son. And but his son wants to be a rapper. His son's been hanging out with all the rappers with diamonds in their mouth and tattoos all over their face and all that. And he wants to be a rapper, but he doesn't want to own. He thinks it's boring to own franchises, even though his father's franchises are probably worth $20 million. He doesn't want that, right? And so if your kids go in a different direction, I encourage you pour into a lot of young people, right? Look for people that gravitate toward what you do. Like, I love talking to young people who come to me and say, I dig what you're doing. My parents, aren't the best. They're not around for me, or I don't have any mentors, but I like what you're doing, Dr. Boyce. And I'm like, yeah, this is great. Let me see how I can help you, because these are the people that also can carry your legacy as well, right? So when I die, the Black Business School is going to have a board of trustees. And what I'm going to do is take the legacy of the Black Business School and put it in the hands of the board, not in any individual person's hands, because individuals make bad choices sometimes, or maybe they just go crazy, or maybe they give up, or maybe they die. But if you have a board, you can have a group of people who are in alignment in their core values, who are all going to protect the legacy of whatever it is that they've been given stewardship over. And then also, I'm going to give them millions and millions of dollars, a bunch of money from my trust. It's going to go to that board, and it's going to say, okay, here's some instructions from me, some things I'd like to see based on my estate plan, but then the rest is up to you to decide how that's going to go. I think being creative about how you preserve your legacy is really important. Don't just put it all on your children, because some of y'all got some messed up kids. Let's just be honest. And it's not your fault in some cases. I mean, society's stupid. Society raises, they deliberately destroy the minds of Black youth so that these Black youth don't grow up and become competitive. They want them to be ignorant. They market drugs to them. They market stupid lifestyles. And sometimes they don't get into a position where they are actually empowered. So let me see here. Charles Hawkins says the flynubian.com isn't working. Actually, it's flynubianmedia.com. So producer at flynubianmedia. That's 3 words, all in one. So producer at flynubianmedia.com. That's where you can send your information to if you'd like to put your podcast on our network, brother. All right. So let me see. I'm going to answer a few more questions real quick. Christian says, does it make a difference if it's done monthly, the same amount or more? Christian, I think as long as you're doing it consistently, I think that's okay. There are some modest differences, but it's not big enough to make a big difference long term. James Swinson says, can you explain how to get into doing the S&P 500 $5 program again? Yeah, if you go to theallblackagenda.com, theallblackagenda.com, that's where the free ebook is on the $5 a day investing program. Also, don't forget, guys, that the All Black National Convention is coming up, and we're going to actually talk about a lot of things at the convention, but stock market investing is one of them, because that's just kind of what we do. So if you'd like to go to the All Black National Convention, you can go to allblacknationalconvention.com and reserve your hotel now, because we're actually going to run out of hotel rooms soon. So it's allblacknationalconvention.com. All right, so Margaret Noel, hello, Dr. Boyce. Do you know anything about Index Universal Life Insurance? If so, is it good to have? Index Universal Life isn't terrible. What it basically is where the insurance company says, in order to convince you to get more insurance, we will actually give you this option where we will charge you a higher premium, but we're going to take a piece of that money and we're going to put it in the stock market for you. And we're going to, the reason it's called Index Universal Life is because we're going to do it in a way that's going to give you the comfort of knowing that you can't lose money, right? So what they do is they put a cap on the money that you make. They say you're not going to make above this amount. Maybe it's like 15% or something like that. So if the stock market does really well, you're only going to make 15%, but you're not going to make below 0%, right? So you're not going to lose any money, right? So for some people, losing money, the fear of losing money outweighs the desire to make more money. So they're actually comfortable with that. So Index Universal Life policies, in my view, are not terrible, but they're not something that you can't simulate on your own, right? So it's really something for people that don't want to think about it. I think it's an excellent savings vehicle for people that have a hard time saving. You're just paying your insurance premium every month, so you've got the death benefit. You've got all these other benefits that might come with it. Maybe those riders that come in for disability and stuff like that. And also you've got this cash value that's growing. So I don't think Index Universal Life is a bad move. It's definitely better than doing nothing at all. right? Let's just be clear about that. Is it the best option for everybody all the time? No, it's not. But it's definitely better than doing nothing at all. So a lot of people do benefit from Index Universal Life. So I would encourage you maybe to do some research on it. Let's see. Ashwan says, Dr. Boyce, where can I buy XRP? You know what? I don't know exactly where to buy it. I think you can go to their website. I think if you go to the website for Ripple, you can buy XRP on the website. It's hard to sell, but there are ways you can sell it. The Black Crypto Club, in case you're interested in crypto, we actually have a crypto club. They meet Thursday, actually. So you can go to theblackcryptoclub.com. That's theblackcryptoclub.com. And they know all those details. I can't tell you that I know every single detail. I can tell you that I own XRP. I own a lot of it. I held on to it during the investigation because I thought the investigation was bogus. And it's benefited. My XRP has shot up a lot in value. So during that time, because now the investigation, I think they're starting to realize it's a bunch of nonsense. And so the price is actually going up. And I believe that once the investigation's over, it's going to shoot up even further, which is why I'm going to be glad I own my XRP. Tracy Robinson, let's see. What was the Gay Street Mall in Baltimore? I live in Baltimore. That mall is gone now. It's called the Gay Street Mall. Oh, okay. Yeah. That mall. Yeah, it's a big empty spot. But I'm gonna tell you, Baltimore. I'm telling you, don't sleep on Baltimore. They are really world leaders in my view when it comes to Black Wall Streets and Black wealth building and doing all the things that we talk about here. And I personally think that they should. I told Jabari Natur and Sundiata and Dr. Maat. I think that that this model needs to be discussed to where it can be applied nationwide, worldwide, right? I don't think we should keep those secrets. I think we should definitely make sure that the whole world knows what's going on in Baltimore because a lot of people aren't talking about it as much because they're actually doing it, right? They're not flexing on the internet about what they're doing. They're literally doing it and they're working with the people in their community, which is what you're supposed to do. Because a lot of folks on the internet, people think that these are the leaders and that these are the smartest people because they have the biggest platforms, and that's just not true. A lot of the people that are really doing the work are really doing the work, and they're not sitting there talking about what they're gonna build. Like they're not telling you they're gonna go build a school. They built the school and they're running the school, right? What's the guy's name out of Chicago? Oh my God, runs Freedom Home Academy International, and I love him because we made a donation. I gave him $5,000 for his school, and that because that school's so good. I mean, those kids. My uncle, I brought my father's cousin Tippy to think Tippy's a millionaire. He's a great guy. And I brought Tippy to the event, and Tippy was so inspired. He was like, I want to sponsor one of the kids at that school because that school is educating kids better than any other school out here. It's Marcus Klein. Marcus Klein, that's his name. And I'm just telling y'all, seriously, like you've got your own school system. You've got your own economic system already. You just have to pour into it. That's the thing. We must shift the culture where we're pouring into those systems that are working and stop pouring into the systems that are not working, right? So that's going to require some time, but I believe once we start doing that consistently, the sky's the limit. Y'all got everything you need. So stop thinking that, white people have, fairy dust coming out of their butts that makes them so magical and special that you have to follow behind them. If you do that, you're following behind mediocrity. You're giving up Black excellence so you can follow behind mediocrity. Please don't do that. All right. What's the website for the Crypto Club again? Brendan's asking. It is theblackcryptoclub.com. THE, theblackcryptoclub.com. One more question, then we're going to get out of here. Let's see. Assalamu alaikum, brother Boyce. I really appreciate these calls, but honestly, I feel like a box of rocks when it comes to investing. I'm ready to invest in them, but I'm so lost, and I really feel like I'm at a disadvantage. I have money ready and available to invest, but I can't afford to gamble and lose it all. Where and how do you suggest I get started? Okay, great question. Excellent question. Okay, first thing I would say is, number one, if you log in at the blackstockmarketprogram.com, literally there's stuff right there at the top, short 8-minute videos that you can watch that will get you started right away. Another resource that you can take a look at is if you go to firstshareofstock.com. That's firstshareofstock.com. There is a 10-minute video I put together that's been seen by over 1 million people that literally shows you how to buy your first share of stock. And I know that the video is good because millions of people have told me that they love it. So feel free to go to firstshareofstock.com if that's something that works for you. I'm going to say it one more time so you can write it down. Somebody type it in the chat, please. It's firstshareofstock.com. And then the other thing you can do is you can go and, right there inside the blackstockmarketprogram.com, I show you how to buy a share stock on like Robinhood and things like that in terms of what to buy in order to protect your money and keep it safe. I don't suggest getting involved in the crazy risky meme stocks and all that. Like AMC, like if you jump into the stock market, you start buying AMC and Dogecoin and all that, you're not investing, you're gambling. There's nothing wrong with gambling. It's just gambling is not investing, and you have to make sure you know the difference. If I'm trying to be safe and protect my money, I'm gonna go buy something like an S&P 500 Spider, SPDR. The Spider it's simple, it's straightforward. It gives you a piece of the biggest companies in America. There's no drama. It's easy. It's easy over and done. That is the way you invest if you want to protect your money. So I would consider doing something like that. And is it Klein or Klein? It's Klein with a K. Kline. Kline. You should definitely look him up. And that's how you can get started. Okay. So I hope that helps you. I think I would say don't let fear sort of slow you down. I understand the hesitation. I understand the fear that a lot of people might have, but there's no reason to be afraid. What you should be afraid of is, if you don't invest. Like if you never invest, then you're going to be stuck exactly where you are right now. So that would be my biggest fear. All right, guys. So let's see here. A couple more